Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today we have Victoria Reynolds. We're going to speak about the Great Awakening. Just before we begin, guys, subscribe to my BitChute channel and YouTube channel, and also my landing page, nicholasveniamin.com. Victoria, how are you, and what's been happening with you?
I am really well, thank you. What's been happening with me? Well, 2020 was a major shift in my life, as it was for a lot of people. We are in the middle of, as we know, the Great Awakening. It started for some of us a long time ago, and the masses are finally starting to catch up. So it's good. I have set myself free from some things that I didn't need to carry forward. And I'm here now I'm on a mission to help free humanity.
And that's really great. I mean, I really do hope, the masses are waking up. I had an interview with an Englishman just before you, and we were talking how in the UK, everybody is so asleep. And I think the UK is, the worst country in the whole wide world. They just completely, they just don't see it, So how are you going on about your mission?
Part of it is through the media. And so I had my spiritual awakening about 10 years ago. Actually, it started in 2008 with the spiritual awakenings tend to occur immediately after all hell breaks loose in a particular person's life. So in my case, it was the 2008 economy. And a lot of people started to have their spiritual awakening after the 2008 economic crash. And that was the case for me. And so I wrote my first book and I started doing interviews, and life happened and I pulled out of the public scene for a few years. And about a year ago, Spirit started telling me that I needed to bring my YouTube channel back to life and start a new YouTube show. So I've been doing that. And the message that came in very clearly about 6 weeks ago is that every single one of us who have the capacity to be seen and heard across the airwaves have got to be seen and heard across the airwaves, because we are the new news.
Right.
And we are, and that we need to be spreading as much love and light and truth across the airwaves as possible, even within the confined environment that we're presently under, as much as is possible. And within the constraints that we're being held with, we can use, words to get around it, but that we need to be spreading our message, because when enough of us are out there spreading the message, when it is masses of us out there spreading the truth and spreading the light and spreading the love and awakening humanity, the old news, then the controlled narrative will actually start to lose its control, because there are so many of us that are out there. And so what I've been hearing very strongly is that all of us need to be out there talking.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think I say all the listeners out there, they should get at least one video that they like from the truthers, and they should just post it on their channel and see how that floods YouTube. Imagine, all those millions of people that follow the truthers collectively, if they all posted a video, that would be wonderful, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. It would flood the airwaves.
Yeah.
There's no way they can control masses that much information going out and across the airwaves.
We should have one day where we plan this and we say, right, on this day, everyone has to post a video. Okay. Everyone.
That's a great idea.
Would you think about that?
That's a great idea. And it doesn't have to be truther type videos. It can be the beautiful video that came out about a year ago called The Volunteers. I don't know if you saw that one, but every time I see it, it makes me cry, because I know I'm one of the volunteers. So even videos like that just wake people up to, one, what has been happening, but two, the possibilities, because we're not showing the possibilities. We're only looking at the storm that's swirling around us rather than looking at what is really possible for humanity. And we're the ones that create it. Our vision creates reality.
Absolutely.
That's why television was created, to tell us the vision the dark side wants us to create for them. So we create new television. We are the new television.
Yeah.
We are telling the new vision of what's possible. So that's what needs to be flooded out across the airwaves too.
They are getting, the mainstream media have the people manifest things that the people don't even know they're manifesting, but they're doing it subconsciously.
Correct.
And they're doing it because they're not aware of of their own powers. But the people that run mainstream media know exactly what they're doing. But
Absolutely.
I think I've never given this idea to anyone. It's the first time I just thought of it, and I'm just, saying it with you, But I think that, I think everyone should post a video out there. And on that day they do it, they should share it, their own video, to all of their groups. Imagine how many, I think that would be like an online protest.
That's a great idea. Yeah, let's do that.
We should.
We have enough influence with the big influencers to be able to do that.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, I should get Charlie Ward on the bandwagon and speak with him, and
you do it,
and yourself and many others, and make this plan. I think it's a great idea, because people say, they share my videos and it's not good, and I said, no, actually, I don't really care about the followers or the viewers, or if my views get diluted. I don't care about that. What I care about is, let them share our videos, because that's the way the truth gets out there. And that's the whole purpose of this, right?
Right. Yeah. Yes. For me, it's not the viewers either. It's about the message, about getting the truth out there. In my case, it's spiritual awakening, but it's still, it isn't about the numbers and the number of followers. It's about the number of lives that you touch. Yeah.
Absolutely. So whereabouts are you based?
I'm just south of Los Angeles. I'm in Redondo Beach, which is about 7 miles south of LAX.
Oh, it sounds lovely.
It is. It's very lovely today. There isn't a cloud or chemtrail to be seen.
And how are people, their mentalities? Are they awake where you are? Is it,
No, you know what? For me, I started seeing this a couple of years ago, that there are bright lights around, and I recognize them. And it's interesting, because when I go out and I walk around, I can see who's asleep and who's awake by whether they wear the face coverings or not. And I find it fascinating who's so asleep that they're in their own home with a face covering on. I find that kind of befuddling.
Yeah. I went to the superstore the other day, and 2 people were not wearing a mask. And I stopped in between of them and I said, well done, the both of you. I said, keep up the good work, and they started laughing and they understood, and it was nice, that people are starting to wake up. But a lot of people need to wake up more. It's still, early, especially in the UK. I mean, I'm used to the UK. I don't know about you, but over here, people are just really, really asleep. They don't like to ask questions or anything, they're not curious enough.
Well, I think it's because the UK has been controlled for so long.
That's right. Yeah, you are probably right.
They've been controlled for a very long time. Not with what is presently happening. What people don't understand is what we see happening right now is just the climax of what's been occurring on our planet for close to 12,000 years. This is the climax of it. So the UK has been under imperial control for a very long time.
And we're seeing it now, like you said, climax. Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, you're right.
So we're just seeing it come to a head. And I think that's why people left. That's why, people left hundreds of years ago to come to this place called America, because of the control.
So, how long have you been, you said you've been awake since 2008. Is that right?
Yeah, well, it's interesting to say, because I grew up in a very, very controlled environment. I'm actually going to be talking with Charlie Ward about this in a couple of weeks. So I'm kind of looking forward to this. We both grew up in religious cults. So I grew up in a religious cult. It was very, very controlled. And when I was a child, even at 4 years old, something about it didn't feel right to me. And I left home at 17. That's when I had really my first awakening of, there's something else out there besides what the religious control had told me. And that's when I discovered spirituality and self-improvement books. So that was like my first awakening. Then I had another level of that awakening. That was in 1987, which I find interesting because it was the harmonic convergence. And I didn't make that correlation until a couple of months ago. And then I had another awakening in 2008. That was with the economic crash that took me up another level. And that's when I started seeing the corruption starting to play out on the planet. I didn't even know it was there. I was in my spiritual awakening and inviting in spirit in, and that's when my spiritual gifts were activated, and I started channeling messages. And actually, I didn't start to see the corruption until about 2012. I didn't even know it existed until I had a vision in the summer of 2012 of the individual who's been the American president for the last 4 years. So when he came into office, I already knew why he was there.
Oh, I see.
Expose the corruption. So I'm seeing it all from a very different perspective than most people, where I've had both the spiritual awakening and the information awakening. There's actually two different awakenings happening right now, side by side. So you have a lot of people who are spiritually awake, but are completely clueless with regard to the corruption. And you have a lot of people who are aware of the corruption, but haven't had their spiritual awakening. And that's kind of intentional on the dark side to keep us divided. Because as long as we can stay divided, we can stay controlled.
So when Trump went into office, and what was the first thing he did that you thought, wow, he's actually doing it?
It wasn't anything that he did. It just took me a while to recognize him. So when he first went into office, I despised him because he was so rude and so, and I'm a public speaker. I'm, distinguished Toastmaster.
I can tell.
So I see him on stage and I was just repelled by this. I didn't recognize him at first. I was repelled by his obnoxiousness, by his inability to debate like a kind human being. He was so mean to Hillary, and I just was repelled by him. And I believed what the narrative was being told about him, because I was seeing the news and I was seeing what was fascinating to me is that my kids said to me, Mom, he's strange. He only talks in sound bites. And I said, well, that's because, he was in the film industry, and that's not the film industry, but he aside from being a real estate developer, which is what I knew him for real estate. I was in real estate for years. I knew him from the real estate perspective. So I was surprised to see him go toward having his own show. But I thought he talked in sound bites because he had been trained to talk to the media in sound bites, which is part of the media training that we get when we're trading for media, which thank God that's been thrown out the window because now we all do conversations. But before that, we were all told to talk in sound bites. What I later realized is that he didn't talk in sound bites. His presentations were chopped up by the media into sound bites that they could then use against him.
So how do you explain sound bites to those who are not sure what it means, including myself?
Oh, okay. So it's sentences that say that every word in the sentence has a very specific meaning. So you and I are just having an open conversation. In the past, when there would be interviews, you would present 10 questions to the interviewer, and you would already know in advance what you were going to say. And you spoke in sound bites. So every word in that sentence, every answer to the question was for specific intent. And you can see it when politicians are interviewed and the politicians are asked a question and the answer is completely off topic. They answer back in what they've already memorized, what they want their answers to be.
Right, I understand. Right. So,
yeah.
So, what are you suggesting now with Trump and his sound bites?
He didn't talk in sound bites. That's just the way they were edited.
So you're saying he's very straightforward and open about what he's saying, and he brought a new style of presidency to the system,
which drove the media crazy, and it drove people crazy because he wasn't presidential, because he didn't speak in sound bites, because he just spoke right off the cuff, and he didn't have his speeches memorized. And you could tell when he was reading his speeches when he would go off on his own personal tangent, because what he personally had to say was very different than what was written in his speeches. And I could tell when he would go off the speech that had been written for him. He'll kind of go off and do his thing. And the media had a heyday with that because his speeches were written very well. But when he went off speech and said his own thing, the media would launch right into his little tangents, his side tangents.
And turn off the red light.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah, I love Trump. He's the best. He's actually set a new way for presidents now. I mean, if you're too squeaky clean and you're too well-spoken and you're too, groomed, people will look at you and think, something wrong with this. This is not normal, because when you're too like Barack Obama, you know, everything's just, the image is perfect, the sound is perfect. You know, it makes you think, what are they hiding? Whereas Trump has set a new path now. You know, you have to see through it. You know, and it's
actually connect with people.
Yeah, and connect with people. Yeah, and that's what he's doing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You know,
so with Obama, it wasn't the case for me because I had studied so much about perfecting my presentations. I loved Obama. I was devastated when I found out he wasn't the fabulous person I thought he was, because he was such a polished speaker. And he knew how to use the loving language of the awakened ones against the masses. And which I didn't recognize because he's so good at using that really beautiful language. And I think what happened in 2020 to kind of take that to a new level with everybody sitting at home and having to learn how to use Zoom is that all of us have had to become more authentic and not be polished. So now what's starting to happen is even the news, the mainstream media is becoming distrusted because their presentations are all scripted. I've been on the news before and I see they get the reporting at 4:00 in the morning of this is what you get to say today. And it's all read on teleprompters. There's no connection to the audience at all. So what's happened in 2020 is that people are now no longer expecting their news feed to be perfect and starting to question if it's too perfect, why is it? The same kind of thing.
Yeah. It's like when you watch the news, it's like you go into this, you get sucked into this, dream, and it's just all too fake, you know, Matrix, if you like. Oh, it's amazing. Yeah. I mean, it's incredible.
It's very controlled.
Yeah. Very, very controlled. Absolutely. But yeah, no, I don't think they'll, you know, I think that Trump has really set a new precedent for new presidents to be in the future. But I don't think we are going to ever have a president again because Trump is the last president of that system. So we might have a completely new structure. There might not even be presidents now. I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
I know that we're going to be bringing in an entirely new structure. So the pyramid-shaped systems, that's all part of the old world. And we're creating an entirely new world. We're going to cohabitate for a while, but an entirely new reality. And in this new reality, the pyramidal structures won't exist. So I see governance being set up completely differently. Now,
how do you see it? Go on.
I'm seeing it as circles rather than pyramids. It's interesting because if you look at what I've been shown very clearly is the geometric design of Metatron's cube. I don't know if you know what that is. It's a sacred geometry. But what I've been shown is that that's what our governance will look like. It's circles and vessels and pyramids all intermixed. So they're councils rather than one person at the top telling everybody else what to do. And it's built from a central location outward.
Makes sense.
So there isn't, what happens is when, as we know, too much control, let's say ultimate control leads to ultimate corruption. So this spreads it in a way that there is no one person who controls the entire thing, which is completely the opposite of what the New World Order is trying to create, which is one government for the entire planet that sits at the top and the rest of us get what's left over. This is completely the opposite, where it's all based on the solidarity and the freedom of every human being. We all contribute to it.
Absolutely. So how do you see it unfolding then in the next, few weeks or months with everything that's going on politically?
Right now, I believe the military is in control.
Okay.
Okay. The military on the ground is in control. And then what I call the guardians of light, who are I guess you would call them military in the sky. It's interesting because I've been calling them the guardians of light for years. And then of course, Space Force now is called the Guardian, which I find fascinating. So the Earth field right now is being managed by the light. It's all been planned out. the message that came in this morning is that this started in 1963 when the guardians of our planet called for backup because it had gotten so out of control. And this plan has been put into place that they've been working on since that time. That's actually when the ascension began as well, when love returned to the planet. And when love and light start coming in, then the dark gets even darker. That's why it has looked so dark, because there's so much more light.
And that was when JFK also was assassinated in 63. So maybe that was the very, very start of the awakening.
Mm-hmm.
People started asking questions, and then we had the CIA create conspiracy theory, the term. So it all began from there, maybe. You know?
Yeah, I mean, we've had ages of enlightenment prior to that, because as Shakespeare said, there is nothing new under the sun. So we've had awakenings many, many, many times before that. But the Great Awakening started, yes, in 1963. That's when the masses started questioning the controllers.
Wow. And then we saw it again massively after 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
Where was you in 9/11 when 9/11 happened?
9/11, I was 8 weeks pregnant with my daughter. And that was the day, it was actually a very big day for me personally. That was the day of my very first OBGYN visit. And I was going to the doctor later that day to confirm that, in fact, I was pregnant. That it was also the 1 year anniversary of my mom's passing. So I was having a moment with my mom, who had come in and talked to me about being at the doctor with me. And then 9/11 happened. It was a very surreal day for me.
Right. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. Yeah. It's just, and how about your family right now? I mean, are they awake?
No.
Yeah.
My parents have both passed, so I don't have that constraint over me anymore with my ability to come out and speak my truth. My husband and my children are very much asleep.
Right.
Well, my husband's completely asleep. My daughter, kind of, she knows not to trust government, and she knows not to trust pharmaceutical companies, but she thinks that the big V is the answer to everybody's questions, and she's big on the masks and all of that. So she's kind of somewhere in there. And yeah, so my kids are half with me, and yeah, so my kids are actually living with my husband right now. They found out who I voted for, and they want nothing to do with me at the moment.
Have you tried getting your children to watch The Fall of the Cabal?
Not interested.
They're not interested. Not even as for mommy, let's sit down and let's, just let's watch it together. Just they won't even watch 10 minutes of it, the first 10 minutes of it.
Yeah. No. So TikTok has my daughter completely brainwashed.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And how many children did you say you have?
Just two. I have an 18-year-old and a 15-year-old.
Okay. And how about the other one? The other one that's not on TikTok?
He is very pragmatic. So he has said to me, Mom, if you don't have proof from a legitimate source, I don't even want to look at it. So, because I've tried to talk to him before, and he's like, that's not a legitimate source. If it's One American News, it's not legitimate. If it's Fox News, it's not legitimate.
So he thinks that the news is not legitimate.
Correct.
Oh, well, at least he's halfway there. But you know what? He could.
Oh, so when I show him something, I have to show him like on PubMed. I have to show here's the actual medical studies that prove. So yeah. So with my son, I just have to show him hard evidence. So one example is I told him we're not allowed to use the microwave anymore because I don't like what the microwave does to my food. And he thinks, of course, Mom's crazy and a conspiracy theorist. So I finally found the research that shows what happens to water when it's microwaved, and that it takes 9 days for the water to recover. So the food that's going in the molecular structure has been changed. But he didn't believe me until I showed him the actual scientific evidence to prove it.
But then the fact that he believed it after he saw the evidence then means, wow, my mom, I thought she was crazy about this, but then when she showed me, I believe it now. So, he should sort of have, give you some credit for that, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. He just he just doesn't believe anything unless he sees the proof. That's just the kind of person that he is. So once he sees the proof, he's excellent at debating.
But sometimes
once he sees the proof, he will be able to debate it very well.
When you've got proof, anyone can debate, and you can debate it really, really well when you've got proof, because it's proof.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes, some people they can see a few things and they can put that one and one together and they can figure it out. But that's not enough for people because they don't like to think, so they need the proof.
Right.
Yeah. That's how a lot of my family are. They need the proof. They can't figure things out. And I think that's the way society has become. What do you think?
Well, a lot of people don't want to. It requires work. Not everyone has the research bug.
So what happens if you show your son, for example, the World Health Organization statistics?
The issue is that they show them, but then they pull them off. This is one of the things I found. So the prime directive on our planet is free will choice. Mm-hmm. So they have to show us the truth. But they can show us the truth for 2 hours and then pull it off and then say, well, we showed you the truth. It's not there anymore, but we put it out there. So a lot of this information gets put up. And if we don't, those of us who are out there taking screenshots don't get the screenshots, you can go back a couple of hours later and the evidence is gone.
And then we'll have another excuse why it's gone. And then,
right.
And then because we know the truth, it makes us look crazy. No, you're right.
But they have to tell the truth, and that's why they put it out there, but then they pull it off. So we have to be very vigilant in seeing it and capturing it.
How about when how about when the numbers of the total death rate is the same as previous years they
don't even budge.
Why?
Because it's the evidence is
not good enough.
It's not from official sources, even though we know they're just exchanging flu numbers for CV numbers. It's the same number of people, but they really believe the narrative that it's coming from the virus instead of from the flu virus.
And thousands of doctors are being censored. That's not a red flag to them?
Because they don't even know they're being censored. See, this is what people don't understand. The mainstream doesn't even know they're being censored. That information isn't even given to the mainstream to even know what's happening. Yeah. Now, my daughter knows that there's censoring going on, but she thinks it's because the people who are being censored is because they're telling lies.
Okay.
Right. So that's the narrative that the other side is being told, that the lies are being censored.
But you see, a normal, reasonable person would think, well, if thousands of doctors, why would thousands of doctors who have no political agenda, who are not billionaires, who have been doing who've studied hard, been doing their careers for so many decades and worked very hard, and they've sacrificed their salaries to help humanity. It's just common sense, isn't it?
It is common sense. Yeah. I mean, they're sacrificing their careers.
Yeah.
They can lose their medical license by coming out and speaking.
And they have.
And some of them have lost their lives over it. And if it were not the truth, why would they even be willing to take that risk?
What's the incentive if it wasn't the truth?
Yeah, there is no incentive.
I mean, even conspiracy theories, who does it benefit? Who does it? It doesn't benefit anyone.
It doesn't benefit them. They're not making any. None of us are making any money off of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It doesn't benefit.
It's just about wanting the truth to be told because we want humanity to be free.
I said to my cousin, I said to him, you will never know, I said to him, if there's any corruption in the government. Never. Because any bad thing, any kind of corruption that comes out, you just throw it away with a conspiracy theory. You label it as a conspiracy theory. So you will never, ever know that anything wrong is going on with the government. Coincidence? It's just...
Or we take that same terminology and turn it against them. It's like, do you know what I mean? They're calling us conspiracy theorists. But then if those people out there who are saying all these horrible things about Trump, aren't they also conspiracy theorists?
Well, again,
right? Because that's a conspiracy too.
It's to them,
So,
it's on the news. Why would
but
they?
they're only calling one side conspiracy theorists. That can be flipped on completely on the other side as well.
You see,
we need to learn how to use their game against them.
To them, we're only conspiracy theorists because our stories they're not on the mainstream media, and they're not on the mainstream media because if it were true, it would be on the mainstream media. That's how they look at it.
That's what my husband says all the
we're
time.
crazy. I think the bottom line is that they can't accept and they can't get their heads around the fact that the whole thing is a lie, and it all has a political gain, a financial gain, and also a controlling mechanism to control the world. So they can't get their heads around that. It's just too far fetched for them, sorry.
Well, that's how good deception is. And that's what I say all the time. Deception is so good at deceiving. That's its job.
Oh yeah. It's fun.
The dark side's entire purpose is to deceive. And it is so good at deceiving that even the most loving people and light-filled and even spiritually awakened people don't see it, because that's how good the deception is at doing its job.
Yeah, only if they knew what deception meant.
Yeah.
If it wasn't good, it wouldn't be called deception. But it's deception on the highest level, and it's been thought of and very sophisticated.
Well, they've had centuries of planning to get it to this point.
Absolutely, and a lot of practice. It's amazing. I'm overwhelmed with the things that they've got away with.
Yeah, because they have gotten so good at knowing how to just hide things under the rug, and all this, every system on our planet is manipulated by it. And I was shown this back in 2012. I was told that all of the corruption from the very top to the very bottom would be exposed, and I could see the corruption at the very top, but I'm sorry, where did you go? I lost you for a second.
It's okay, I'm still here.
Okay. The corruption at the very top, I could see, but I was trying to make sense around the corruption at the bottom, because I thought, how in the world could my neighbors be part of the corruption? And then I started seeing, it goes all the way down to local school boards. It goes down to the teachers' unions. It goes down to the local governments.
And they don't know they're doing it, because it's just what
all the way from the very top to the very bottom. I had no idea it was that. Yeah, the word I'm hearing is an infestation.
Yeah. It's just on a need to know basis. This is what you do, but they're not aware of the corruption. They just follow the procedure.
Yeah, and they have no idea. They have no idea who's really controlling the show. They're just doing what they're told.
Yeah,
and I see that. It's interesting. So my next door neighbor's son is the high school representative for the local school district. They have one high school student who sits in on the board meetings, and he's seeing it now. He's on the other side. So he thinks that the conservatives have all lost their mind, but it's even in the local board meetings, you can see how the corruption works of, we can't open the schools until every student is vaccinated and every student wears a mask and every student has to sit 6 feet apart. So our schools will be closed for the rest of the school year.
Yeah. I try to see both sides, and I can understand that they think we're crazy, and that's only because they are so suppressed.
Right.
I try to put myself in their heads and myself with them, to think what they would think. And I don't blame them, but
absolutely
they need to, but it's overwhelming how crazy we can come off when they've been, because we've been lied to. That's how deep the lies go. So deep that they think we're really crazy because it's so deep. When you tell them about underground tunnels and children and our presidents are doing this, they think we've lost it. We need help.
Yeah. But it's been going on for thousands of years.
Oh yeah, it has. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And it has become The word I'm hearing is temptation. So because it is so tempting when people get sucked, so perfectly wonderful, ordinary human beings have been sucked into that really dark world because of the false light that they're tempted by. The false light is Lucifer, right? He's the Lord of false light. That light is so tempting that if you join us, we'll make you a star. If you join us, we'll build your business for you. It's so tempting that they're willing to basically sell their soul, their core light of who they are in order to be part of that false light. And that's how perfectly wonderful human beings get sucked into it.
And they have no idea that they're selling it either.
And it's almost impossible to get out once you've been sucked in.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they just think, we're here as long as I'm not doing anything wrong. And as long as I've got money and it's all materialistic. It's all physical. They don't realize there's a spiritual war behind all of this because again, it's not their fault because we've been suppressed through food, through our drinking waters, through mainstream media, music frequencies, everything, our education system.
And that really started to happen when the awakening started in 1963, when the ascension started in 1963. That's when the dark side went on defense of, we've got to ramp it up because people are starting to wake up. So then they really got, the stuff they're spraying in our air, the stuff they're spraying on our food, the stuff they're putting in our food. And I was asking about that a couple of days ago. So, well, why is the dark side so intent on us becoming vegans? Because they're really big on animal sacrifice, on sacrificing. That's part of the dark side's mode, and the story of Cain and Abel, that the sacrifice was right there. The dark side wanted the animal sacrifice. So I was wondering, well, then why would they want us all to be vegan if they enjoy hurting animals? And it was, well, because in the vegan food, they have more control of what goes into our bodies, where they were putting the hormones and everything into the meat, but enough people got wind of the stuff that was being put into meat that we're not eating the meat anymore. So now they have to put it in our vegetarian food, and it's hidden under the guise of natural ingredients, natural flavorings. You can put anything in food and call it a natural flavoring.
It's terrible. I mean, they've literally messed up everything. Their spider web or their web or whatever you want to call it is everywhere, deep and wide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was seeing it as a spider web a couple of years ago. That's exactly what it is.
Can you think of anything?
It's everything.
Can you think of anything that is actually true that they haven't touched?
Any system? No.
Not anything. I'm not
anything
about just system. I'm talking about, could be religion. It could be food. It could be anything. Because
the only thing they can't touch is the stream of consciousness from our heart up to the heart of God. That's the only thing they can't.
They can't. The only thing they can do, to get close to that, is suppress the pineal gland so we can stop the manifestation and the connection. And they want to do it through vaccines.
Yeah, and there are enough of us who know that that's what's happening, that we can actually clear that out of our physical makeup, so that we make that direct connection to source. Mm-hmm. But everything has been infiltrated.
Everything, isn't it? I can't think of anything. I was talking to my friend the other day and I was asking her, can you think of anything? And she said, no, I can't think of anything. I'm just thinking.
No, and it's not even that it's been infiltrated. It's because a lot of so the dark side needs us to create the dark aspects, the dark side, the dark, whatever we want to call it. I just call it the dark side because there's light and there's dark. So the dark side does not have the capacity to create. They cannot see in the darkness. They need humanity and our light to create on their behalf. That's why they create the systems of control, but they need us to create. They can't create without the human capacity to create. It's what makes human beings unique, is that we can create. We are made in the image of the divine creator in our ability to create. So they need us to create for them. that's why they control all the systems. Once we come up with the ideas, they go in and latch onto our ideas and then feed it with money and feed it with ego and feed it with the resources necessary to make the idea grow.
They corrupt and destroy.
And they start when kids are very young. They recognize them in first grade. Oh, this one is special. The gifted kids, my kids were not among I think it's called GATE. Anyway, so they recognize these gifted kids in as young as first grade, and they get a completely different education. They get taught leadership. Their ideas get funded. They go down the track of being able to create these ideas that they have. They become the new leaders in this, in the dark system. Mm. So other kids don't get that same level of education and assistance and support and leadership training that the special kids get. Mm. And that's how the dark side works. So when they see a kid with a lot of promise, they latch on and they get all of the extra attention needed for them to become the new leaders and to become the big creators. They come up with the new technologies, all of that.
And they corrupt them. They add things in there, and they even brainwash, them. So that's why they make clones, because if you're, I don't know if you know about this, but I wasn't sure about clones, to be honest. But then I started doing more research, about clone centers, because they do exist. Whether whoever's listening now, whether they believe that clones, is true or false, I've seen clone centers, and I've heard of people right at the top speak about clones. And apparently, if you're really gifted, they will clone you because they like the brain. Mm. But they will have you controlled. So they'll put a chip inside of you, and wherever you go, whatever you say, they can hear you and they can control you remotely.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I haven't really followed the clone thing so much. But I know that technology has been around a lot longer than we've been told.
Yeah, and they take the real person, so they'll take the original person underground, and they will take them away, and they'll keep the clone up on the earth, controlled, doing what they need to be doing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and they make them more sexually liberal as well, because sex sells, so.
Right. I have heard that. And I know that the dark energy thrives off of, thrives off the sexual energy.
The sexual energy, yeah.
Right. So not off the making love energy.
Absolutely.
Because that's a beautiful energetic exchange of love that they don't like, but they like the sexual energy.
Yeah.
The pornography and that sort of thing.
The lust and all of that.
Lust. Yeah. They thrive on the lust.
Yes.
And that's one of the things I want to point out really quick. One of the greatest misinterpretations of all time is that the love of money is the root of all evil, because they thrive, they control the money systems, right? But it isn't the love of money. Love carries a completely different vibration. It's the lust of money.
Mm. Yeah, no, definitely. You don't love money with your heart, because you don't care about money the way you would care about your children. So it's a completely different love. Absolutely.
Right.
It's not.
But you can love money when you understand that it's a tool for transformation. When you actually understand what it's capable of in the hands of love, then you can love money a completely different way of, oh, this is an extraordinary tool I have access to be able to help humanity. Mm. That's completely different than the lust of money and the need to control it.
Yeah. But I think I have absolutely. And I think the reason why we would love money in the way that you said, I think it's because people really, what they really love is freedom. They like options, flexibility, because they love life.
Right. And that's what money can do for people.
Yeah, absolutely. But these people that love money, they love control. And that's evil.
Right. But it's not even love. It's all lust. That's just the differentiation between those two words, because nothing about love, real love, is controlling. Mm-hmm. Love is patient, kind, free, all of those words, right? So when we start to understand that it's not about the love of control, it's about the lust of control. It's a completely different vibration.
Yeah. Yeah. So when did you start your YouTube channel? How long have you been going now?
So I started my first YouTube channel way, way back in 2010, maybe before YouTube was even owned by Google.
Right. Wow.
I started a YouTube channel and I would post every once in a while. I posted some affirmations and every once in a while I would post something. Completely forgot about that channel. I haven't posted for like 5 years. And then last spring, I started another YouTube channel called Fearless and Free TV.
Mm-hmm.
And Fearless and Free TV, I started sharing some of my channeled messages, and I've started bringing in other teachers and other messengers to bring a new message to humanity. So that one I started last spring, didn't do much with it until a couple of weeks ago. And I got the hit that I needed to really start. So I have now 32 episodes and it's growing very, very fast because once people discover it, they're thrilled to discover it because they have really good information in there. Yeah. And then what's funny is that my old YouTube channel that I haven't posted on forever is suddenly growing in numbers as well. So I have to start posting on that channel too.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. See, I only have one channel and on YouTube, and I'm currently on a ban, and I don't even have a backup channel for that yet.
Oh, no, I heard that you've been banned. Yeah. And I've been really good about not saying anything that might get you banned if you decide to post this one on YouTube later, so that way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I said the V word earlier, and I thought that you may want to put this one on YouTube, so I withdrew myself.
Yeah, that's why I was calling it the face coverings. And
yeah, exactly.
We just have to speak in code. We can get around the controls if we speak in code.
We have to be strategic, definitely.
Yeah.
And we have to weaponize their tools against them, a bit like what Trump does, and expose them.
Use their systems against them. Absolutely.
Oh, of course, definitely, But listen, Victoria, it was lovely speaking with you. It was really, really nice to meet you. I think we should do this again sometime. What do you say?
I think that would be lovely.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, is there anything that you would like to say to the audience?
Just one really quick thing. And this isn't a plug for me. This is a plug for a book that I wrote. On my personal website, I have a book called Rise Up. It's a simplified guide to the Great Awakening, etc. And it's free. And I wrote it. It was basically channeled for me in November of last year. I was told it needed to get out right away. So it is free. It is a guide to all the terminology that we're using. Right. So it is, and it's a bridge for the people who are awake with information and also people who are spiritually awake to be able to speak each other's language. And so if that is something people are interested in, I have it available on my website to be able to decipher what words mean that we put out there.
Victoria, if you would leave the links to me, and I will leave them below in the description. I would love to, have that available for the listeners.
Okay.
And I'll leave it below in the video description.
I'll do that. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and we'll speak very soon again.
Yes. Lovely to meet you in person.
You too.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Cheers.
Bye.